The following program contains politically irreverent commentary. If you suffer from an exaggerated sense of self-importance, this show might not be right for you. Check with a PhD in PC, ASAP.
Ladies and gentlemen, all I'm saying is this. Eric Holder, He puts the lizard in lounge lizard.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. Randall Terry.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the program. Part 2, discussing the IRS, Eric Holder's failings. And I'm going to play a clip for you that you probably did not see because, well, Representative Louis Gohmert from Tyler, Texas, gave Eric Holder such a thrashing during a recent hearing that I think that the press just covered for Holder and didn't show it. But we're going to show it. Oh yeah, we're going to show it right after this.
Whether you're watching the voice of resistance on your cathode ray tube or your liquid crystal display, I urge you not to be like the blistering idiots that don't watch. Randall is almost as smart as me. Sure, he doesn't have a Nobel Prize in physics, but who does besides me and Einstein? Me and Einstein.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to today's program. We are going to continue with our discussion about the IRS, getting rid of the federal income tax, discuss what a VAT tax is, what the fair tax is, some of the ideas that people had about prebates so that the poor would not be hurt. But before we do that, I witnessed on C-SPAN recently just a really fun tongue thrashing from Representative Louis Gohmert of Tyler, Texas, regarding the attorney, or rather directly to Attorney General Eric Holder. I want you to see it just because it's so good.
Were you aware of the Cambridge mosque where Tamerlan was attending back at the time that the Russians gave us that information?
Not at that time.
All right, well, let me tell you, he was attending a mosque in Cambridge, and obviously, if you're not sure about that, you would probably not have had anybody provide you the organization papers for the Islamic Society of Boston that was also the founder of the mosque in Cambridge, a guy named Alamoudi that I'm sure you know is doing 23 years for being involved in terrorism, also working with the Clinton administration back before he was arrested and then convicted and sent to prison for 23 years. But he started the mosque. What kind of follow-up was done on the mosque at Cambridge and the mosque at Boston, where you had a convicted terrorist that was involved in the organizing? Do you know what they did about it?
All I can say at this point is that I think that what the FBI did in connection with the information they received was thorough. There are questions of the Inspector General.
Well, thorough is an opinion. I'm asking if you knew specifically about the mosque at Cambridge, who founded it, that a terrorist founded it, the one that he attended. And it sounds like from your answer you feel satisfied it was thorough, but you don't really know what they looked at. So let me move on then.
My answer to the question is that the FBI, as I said, I think was thorough, but there were problems that were not of the FBI's making with regard to their...
Look, the FBI got a heads up from Russia that you have a radicalized terrorists on your hands, they should not have had to give anything else whatsoever. That should have been enough. But because of political correctness, there was not a thorough enough examination of Tomerlin to determine this kid had been radicalized. And that is the concern I have. On the one hand, we go after Christian groups like Billy Graham's group, we go after Franklin Graham's group, but then we're hands off when it comes to possibly offending someone who has been radicalized as a terrorist. And I appreciate Ms. Chu's comment. There were people concerned about possible profiling, but I would submit, Attorney General, there were a lot more people in America concerned about being blown up by terrorists, and I regret very much my time has expired.
Ooh, you could, if that was only a portion of the exchange, by the way, and you could see Holder was just getting agitated, irritated. You got to love it. The truth of the matter is this, that our current government is predominantly made up of people who are terrified of offending the Muslim community. They don't want to be accused of profiling. But historically, a mosque should be looked at as an outpost for Islam, all right? It's an outpost for Islam. And the purpose of Islam is the political, military, and religious subjugation of the whole world to the dictates of Muhammad. So if you've got a guy who is a convicted terrorist who is a founder of a mosque, and you don't have this intelligence, the common sense, to go and say, wow, if he was a terrorist and he was running the mosque and was a founder of the mosque, maybe he discussed some of these terrorist ideas with some of his Muslim brothers, and maybe we should just investigate a little bit more. Maybe the Russians knew something here that, well, they did know something and they told us, but their desire to be politically correct outweighs their desire to see and to act on the truth. And that's what this is about, friends. It is about the truth. Truth is objective. Truth is findable. Truth is knowable. And then once you know the truth, it'll set you free, and it will also require certain actions or inactions from us, right? Certain words or lack of words. If we're going to be honorable and fulfill our duty to our Maker, when we know the truth, we have to act on the truth. All right, let's switch gears for a minute. For the rest of the show, I want to talk to you about the truth of the IRS. The federal income tax that we have in America, the graduated federal income tax, is a Marxist ideal, okay? It comes straight out of the Communist Manifesto. In fact, I'm going to take a break. When we come back, I will read the 10 demands of the Communist Manifesto, just for fun. See if you know what they are, and then you look to see how many of the demands of the Communist Manifesto are already functioning at some point in our country. Don't go away.
A fine hat is the mark of a fine man.
Every day in America, over 3,500 babies are torn apart by abortion. Shouldn't all babies, like this living, unborn child, have the right to life? Baby killing will only end when Americans see the truth of what abortion does to innocent children. You can help end this Holocaust by showing the truth of abortion in your area with a Face the Truth tour. Go to FaceTheTruthAmerica.com to set up a Face the Truth tour in your area. The babies and their mothers will be eternally grateful. In the 1980s, banks introduced designer checks. When my buddy George Johnson inquired at the bank, they had nothing for pro-lifers. So the Johnsons created beautiful pro-life bank checks showing babies with a strong pro-life message. You can speak out for life with every check you write, whether personal or business checks. Be a voice for babies with these pro-life checks. Go to prolifecheckguy.com to see more. That's prolifecheckguy.com.
O Lord, thou God of vengeance, shine forth. Rise up, O Judge of the earth. Render to the proud their deserts. O Lord, how long shall the wicked exult?
Welcome back, friend. All right, here's what I want you to do. Listen closely to what I'm going to say. These words come right out of the Communist Manifesto. And then you start to process, with my help of course, some of the ways that these demands by Karl Marx, who was self-consciously at war with Christianity and with liberty, private property, okay? He was self-consciously at war with that. You look at how many ways and in how many manners our various federal, state, and local governments have embraced parts or all of the Communist Manifesto. And by the way, Woodrow Wilson, when Marx's ideology was having its big impact in Europe in the beginning of the 20th century, in the 1900s, it was Woodrow Wilson who was the president when the 16th Amendment was ratified to give us direct tax. And Wilson wanted it, all right? Wilson was called a progressive. Wilson probably was the worst president we ever had in our country's history. His memory rot on the ash heap of history. I say that with Christian charity, by the way. All right, here's Karl Marx's 10 planks. Number 1, abolition of property in land and application of all rents of land to public purpose. Now, we haven't implemented this fully, but just about in reality. How so, Randall? Property tax, land tax. You think you own your property, but you don't. You're a glorified squatter. That's what you are. You're a glorified squatter. You're a well-dressed 21st century serf.
Why?
Because if you don't pay that land tax, they will drive you from your property at the point of gun, if need be. So it's really the government that owns your property, unless you're in one of those small pockets like in Louisiana where they don't have property tax on certain homes. I would, if I was president, whew, what a fun day that would be. Wouldn't that be fun? If I was president, I would use the bully pulpit to pass a constitutional amendment or a federal law, either way, but probably have to do a constitutional amendment to outlaw all property tax. Oh, Randall, how will the schools be funded? Well, we could do something like a sales tax, or we could do something like go back to true private education and not have public schools. I'm getting ahead of myself. Karl Marx is waiting for us at the end here. All right, number 2, a heavy progressive or graduated income tax. There you have it. Plank number 2 of the Communist Manifesto, the exact words out of the Communist Manifesto are a heavy progressive or graduated income tax.
Woodrow Wilson really heard that.
Woodrow Wilson got the message and pushed for it here in America. All right, number 3, the abolition of all rights of inheritance. Now, we have a light version of that, okay? But we still have an inheritance tax. So your mom, your dad, your grandparents, they worked all their life. They did something right. They amassed a small fortune, maybe a big fortune, and they paid taxes their whole life on that money. And when they die, the government says, we don't think you paid enough. We're going to tax you even after you're dead. This comes right out of the Communist Manifesto, people. Are you starting to see a pattern here? Number 4, confiscation of the property of all immigrants and rebels. Well, that one is not that often, although the IRS has seized people. We recently ran that special, what was that special called, Lane, that we ran? On the IRS, on that family. Yes, the rampant injustice. We saw the IRS coming and literally confiscating things without the authority to do so. Gibson guitars having millions of dollars in loss and millions of dollars of product just taken. Martin Guitars has the same wood. They don't have theirs taken, but Gibson has theirs taken. So we see it a little bit in our country, but nothing like it happened under, nothing like to the intensity of what the Communist Manifesto declares. Are you telling me I need to take a break? Yeah. All right, I didn't even get through all 10 of these. How a man like me, with so much for to say, can do great show while you keep going like this, cut. What does this even mean? It bothers me. I take break, I go and break something. I don't like the way he talked to me. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes? and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today.
Moments with Moses. They will stumble over one another, as if to escape a sword, though none pursues. And you shall have no power to stand before your enemies.
Welcome back to the program, friend. We are looking, if you just joined me, at the Communist Manifesto, the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto, and kind of assessing the ways that our various federal masters of the federal plantation or our state plantations have coerced and seduced us to be a part of their grand Marxist scheme. All right, number 5, centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. We've got that. Got that plain and simple. Number 6, centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state. Well, we do have the Department of Transportation, which regulates all flights. They've got a pretty big say on our cars. The FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, has a total control of TV signals, radio signals. Now, it can be argued that since there's a finite number of signals available, that somebody had to adjudicate and somebody had to say, okay, you can have this many watts, you can have this many watts. But we saw a lot of favoritism going on when they got rid of the analog world and introduced the digital world, creating hundreds and thousands of new places that a station could exist, and getting rid of all those analog signals, which they could have still existed. This was a huge favor. This was the government working with big corporations to ensure that little people like us don't have access to too much of the airwaves. We could have a lot more access to the airwaves, but there is a centralization of the means of communication in the hands of the state, just like Karl Marx wanted. Extension of factories and instruments of production. This is number 7. Extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state, the bringing into cultivation of wastelands, and the improvement of the soil, generally in accordance with a common plan. The Farm Administration. Do you have any idea how much coercion goes on with the federal government and monies transferred to urge farmers to not plant?
The Commerce Act?
To pay people to not plant, or to give them financial incentives to follow a grand plan so that we want a lot of soy over here and we want a lot of corn over there, rather than let a free market just determine what is grown and what is not grown. Let's go to number 8, because I'm going to run out of time. And the man over there going to tell me I must shut up. And then I go to the man, you need me to come and use my Russian accent with you? Huh? Is this what you want? You push me to this extreme? Number 8, equal liability of all to labor, establishment of industrial armies, especially for agriculture. That's why we have illegal immigrants. Number 9, that was a joke and it was funny. Number 9, combination of agriculture with manufacturing industries, gradual abolition of the distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of the population over the country. Thank God we have not tried, our government has not tried to move people around. At different points they've given people incentives. Pardon me?
Agenda 21 is doing.
Agenda 21, that's true. We'll do some shows on that. We will come back and do shows on the Agenda 21. I am not taking my break. I'm finishing this. Fix the clock. Number 10, free education for all children in public schools. Oh, bingo, ding, 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 ding. Free education for all children in public schools, right out of the Communist Manifesto. Abolition of children's factory labor in its present form. A broken clock is right twice a day. They did want to get rid of child labor, and for that we thank Karl Marx. He's probably rotting in a very, very distasteful place with a lot of smell of sulfur, but nevertheless, he did want to get rid of child labor. I don't know if he's in hell. Combination of education with industrial production. Work schools. You go to school, learn how to be a welder. Yes, you learn how to be, I'm not going to cut. Stop the cut noise. All right. The communist ideal, and then I will stop and take my last break, is that every child is a child of the state. And if you don't educate your child in the way that the government says, how many weeks a year, how many days a week, how many hours a day, what topics they will learn in these given years, if you don't do it, the government will charge you with contributing to the delinquency of a minor. You might have your children taken away, okay? So don't kid yourself. We are functioning under a very Marxist premise when it comes to your children and my children. Our children do not belong to the state. They are the gifts of God to moms and dads. That's why the commandment is honor your father and mother. It doesn't say honor your uncle, Sam. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books, theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last.
They sacrificed their sons and their daughters to the demons. They poured out innocent blood, the blood of their sons and daughters, whom they sacrificed to the idols of Canaan, and the land was polluted with blood.
I have to confess, there is a price to be paid for not paying attention to the clock. I've only got 2 minutes. By the way, what's the former IRS guy's head's name? Schulman. Went 156, 157 times to the White House. In George Bush's 8 years, the IRS commissioner went once. And in the first term of Obama, the IRS commissioner went 150 some odd times. You're going to tell me that there wasn't some type of a political collusion going on? What the heck is the IRS commissioner going to the White House that many times for? It strains the ability to believe. All right, what I promised you I would do, I'm going to have to take up on another show, namely to discuss at length the VAT, the flat tax, the fair tax. But the end of the matter is this, okay? Again, the suspension of disbelief. Picture a world called America where you don't pay an income tax. The taxes that run the federal government are paid for at the point of purchase. So if you're poor, you're not going to pay much. If you're rich and you buy a big boat, you're going to pay a lot more. And that is how the federal government was founded, or rather funded from the beginning of our country. And that is what the founders of this republic believed. They did. Thomas Jefferson and George Washington would probably start another physical, literal, violent revolution against our current government because of the way that liberty, property, the right to life has been completely trashed by this government. I can't say it for sure, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did. And the idea that the government demands to know how much we make, it is communist, it is evil, it is intrusive, it is dark, it is slavery, it is vile, it is demonic. I'm just going to keep using adjectives as we go out, all right? It is despicable, it is unholy, it is unthinkable, it is reprehensible, it is dark, it is gray, it is vile, it is